Hi, everyone. As she said, my name is Tiffany Clark. I am a wife and mother. I am transitioning into my husband and I, into a new area of parenting with our children have all left home. So our hashtag talk to me, oh my gosh, it has truly, the conversations have truly changed in our home simply because there are no children there. So that's really funny to us. Um, we've always had kids in the home. And so when I think about hashtag talk to me from a personal standpoint, it is really interesting when the conversations go from the day to day. One of our children graduated from Douglas Anderson, another one from First Coast High School. And so all of those conversations that we used to have about a number of things, pickups and drop offs and, performances and practices and ROTC and communicating with teachers, it is so different now that they've transitioned. And I find myself having to use the exact same tools and the resources that I offer to other people. I'm eating this meal myself as well. Now you're going to see me go back and forth over to my phone. Please ignore that. I am over 40 now, so I don't memorize anything. Everything is on my iPhone. Okay? So let me just go ahead and say that I have to write everything down. And so let's get started. So, what is hashtag talk to me? Hashtag talk to me is let's stop and have a conversation. And that's exactly what it is. We need to stop, or we should stop, and have these critical conversations, these conversations about nothing and everything with our children, with our itty bitties, with our in betweens, with our teens. Yes, we want to stop our day to day. And sometimes, sometimes that stop is the amount of time that it takes to get from home to the school. Sometimes that stop is in the pickup line in the morning, because if your children were anything like my children, the ride on the way to school oftentimes was like this. And so by the time we made it to the school, I remembered that I needed to say something, or they remembered that they needed to tell me something. And so that conversation could have been in anything but 10 or 15 seconds. The time that it took for them to gather their things and get out the car. So hashtag talk to me truly is uh, about us engaging our children, and us having conversations with our children, and our children having conversations with us, and us listening to our children and them listening to us, because it is a two-way communication. Now I want to read something to you that is very near and dear to me. Listen to this. Families influence how we talk, think, love, feel, give, hold back, hold on, let go, and how we communicate. I'm going to say that again. I'm going to read that again. Families influence how we talk, how we think, how we love, how we feel, how we give, how we hold back, how we hold on, how we let go, and how we communicate. Now, think about that for a moment. Think about your growing up and how your family, you as a child, the smaller you, the little you, and how your surroundings, your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, your brothers, your sister, your grandma, your grandpa, even in my neighborhood, we had Miss Nadine, and Miss Nadine was family. She was not blood, but she was family. Miss Honey was family. And they influenced on my street how I thought about life, how I loved people, how I played. And so when you think about family and you think about the family that you grew up with, they have had a major, one of the most important influences in your life come from your family. Come from your family. Now, listen to this. Two-way communication occurs, okay? So two-way communication. It occurs when one person is the sender and they transmit a message to another person who is the receiver. Now, you have to kind of excuse me. I have a military background. So a lot of times my husband often reminds me, Tiffany, you're not in the Air Force anymore, so you can calm all that down and just talk to us, talk to us like we're civilians. And so a lot of times I revert back to that. But when I was in the Air Force, I had a lot of two-way communication. I was on radios a lot. I was on dispatches a lot. And just like it says, two-way communication occurs when one person is the sender and they transmit a message, so they throw it out there, and then to another person who's the receiver, so they catch that message. Now, listen to this. When the receiver gets the message, okay, the person you tossed it to, they send back what? A response. And that response acknowledges that the message was received, right? So, for example, let's think about who you text today. Did you have to text any of your children? Did any of your children text you? Did you receive a text message from a teacher, from a resource teacher, from your husband, from a family member? And so when they received your message, maybe you sent the message, and when they received that message, they either acknowledged it with a little heart, with a little thumbs up, or something like that, right? Communication, two-way communication. I'm going somewhere with this. I promise, I promise, I promise. If you hold on, I am going somewhere with this, okay? Now, let's get to the reason why we're here. The conversation. Let's stop. Now, for me, the stop, the S in stop means share, okay? Taking time to share. Taking time to share with our children on a daily basis. And again, what I don't want us to do is get caught up in trying to be like somebody else. You know, oftentimes when we're talking to our children, we may revert back to a conversation we had with a coworker, or with a girlfriend, or with someone, and try to use, you know, what they're using with their children on our children, right? And we've all done it. We've heard someone say something, it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna try that at home. Well, when you take time to share with your children, make it personal. Make it between you and your child. Because they know us, right? They know us. They have lived in that home with us for a long time. And so when we are taking the time, when we're stopping and we're sharing, okay, we want to make sure that our children know that at that moment, they are the most important person in the room. And like I said, that looks different in different situations. For example, I gave the example about being in the pickup line. Now, a lot of times, and if you've been in that car line, it's brutal. The car line is brutal. It is brutal. And then they have the nerve to ask for volunteers. Mm-mm-mm. But sometimes in that car line, that may be the only time you got to share, because when they woke up this morning, there was so much chaos, organized chaos, going on at home that we really didn't have a whole lot of time to catch up from the night before. And then in the car, maybe we're just not tuned in because we're driving, right? We're driving. And so we haven't had an opportunity to share while we were driving. And so we get in the car line and it's like, oh my gosh, I meant to tell her this, or I meant to say that. So whatever that time, that moment, that space, take advantage of the time and take time to share. The S in stop. Stop and have a conversation. That S, take time to share. Share. Okay? And like I said, that share looks different for different families. A lot of times for me, I have three children. Our oldest is in the military. Our middle son is in the military. And our daughter is a freshman in college in Boston. And so what I have found is a lot of times when I've needed to take the time to share, Oftentimes, it wasn't some long, drawn out conversation, a lecture, a dissertation to my kids. A lot of times, it was something really, really short, sweet, and to the point. A lot of our teachable moments are like that, and we'll get to that too. Okay? So, share. Take time to share. Now, the T in stop, let's stop and have a conversation. The T stands for time. Time. Now, when I think about time and the time that we spend having conversations with our children, I think about moments, I think about opportunities, and I think about everyday living. Okay? Moments, opportunities, and everyday living. So, you hop in the car and you head to Publix or you head to Winn-Dixie, okay? Or Walmart or wherever you go. And they're with you, or she's with you, or he's with you. That's a moment. Now, I'll be perfectly honest. Let me be real transparent. I did not like to shop with my children. It was never fun. It was never a good experience for me. For me. But what I learned how to do in that moment, in that opportunity that I had, is turn it into a teachable moment for us both. A lot of times in the car on the way to the grocery store, I would find out so much that I just didn't know was going on with my daughter's day or with ROTC with my son. And it was an opportunity for them, we're in the car anyway, for them to share with us. And so that's why the T in stop is so important because we don't get oftentimes time, moments, and opportunities back. We don't. They come and then they're gone. And so we have to, and I hate this sounds so cliche, but seize the moment. And we really do need to seize the moment. Because when we stop to share and we take advantage of the time, the opportunity, and the moments, guess what? We are creating memories. And sometimes it can be a silly joke, something that was so funny on the way to the grocery store or on the way to practice. And so don't dismiss those small moments, those things that made you laugh in the car with your children or something that sparked maybe a serious conversation. And it opened up the door for you guys to have dialogue about something maybe that had been on their heart or something that they had been thinking about. And the only time that they had to share it with you, the only opportunity that they had was on the way to practice or when you picked them up that evening from practice or when you picked her up from the daycare and she wanted to tell you about something that happened when they were drawing or when they were in circle time that morning. So always take advantage of those little moments, those opportunities that we have to have conversations with our children. Because sometimes it's just a small window. And a lot of you know, we've created busy lives. we have created, we have, we have put, we add stuff to our plates. I'll say that. We continually add stuff to our plates. And so as we add things to our plates, the need for the time, the opportunity, and the moments to make those memories become so critical and so important and so crucial to our relationship with our children. Because think about your day. I want you to think about a normal day. And I'm gonna tell you, I don't know what normal is. I honestly don't. I have no clue what normal is. But think about your day. From the time you got up this morning, and if you fixed lunches, if you had to give them lunch money, if you had to, you know, if you had to share something with your child, or if you had to go through notes and go through the backpack and all the different things that you had to do before you walked out that door. And then you finally get into the car, you get into the garage, or you go out into the parking lot. Now, there was only a small window, right? Because maybe you didn't have time to have a long conversation about what the day is going to hold. Maybe you only had time to say, be kind, please listen, please don't. And sometimes it's like that. Sometimes we deposit these little nuggets into our moments, into our opportunities, and into our time because we don't have a whole lot of time, right? But like I said, don't dismiss those small moments. Your day, think about your day and everything that transpired today. Up until this point, when you were trying to pick the children up, and maybe you had to call your husband, maybe you had to call your mom, whatever happened today. Do not dismiss the small moments, the opportunities that you are given. Like we're given time. It's just a matter of what we do with it, right? Because everybody gets the same amount of time a day. Nobody gets any more or any less. Like there's like a stash on layaway, where I get 27 hours. No, I get the same amount of time that you get. So when we are with our children and we're engaging our children and we are having fun and doing what we do with them on a daily basis, remember that every opportunity that we're given is an opportunity to create a memory, a lasting memory, whatever that memory is. And again, it doesn't look the same for everyone, and that is okay. Okay? So that's time, moments, opportunities, and everyday living. Now, open. That's the STOP. So the O is for open. Now, this one is crucial. I'll say it's crucial, it's critical, it's important because the O in stop, in let's stop and have a conversation, is all about our educators, the coaches, the teachers, the individuals that see our children on a daily basis, inside the classroom, maybe in the front office. And so the O in stop, let's stop and have a conversation, open the doors for teachers. And not just teachers, our educators as a whole. Now think about this. We all know that, it is oftentimes not easy building a relationship. Sometimes it really is. Sometimes it's really easy to build a relationship with our children's teachers, and sometimes it's not. Maybe they're not the touchy feely type, and they don't want you calling them all the time and emailing them all the time. But I'll tell you, I was one of those parents that did that all the time. Like I'm emailing you whether you want to be emailed or not. How are you doing today? How? Okay, I was that parent. I'll admit. I would email you to death. But on a serious note, really, the O in stop, let's stop and have a conversation is opening the doors for our teachers, for our educators. Okay? Now, I will say this. You cannot get, and I say this all the time, you cannot get parent involvement without parent engagement. And all that means is if you want me to be involved, you're going to have to engage me, right? If you want me to volunteer, if you want me to go on field trips, if you want me to come at the front office and help, then you're going to have to engage me if you want me to get involved. But oftentimes our teachers need to know that it's safe to cross that bridge because you know how we are about our children, right? Like we can really be that parent, you know? But what I have found is that a lot of our educators, and and I don't have to say this, but I'll say it because we know it's true. It's stressful. It's a stressful environment for them. And sometimes they don't know, like they honestly don't know if it's okay to engage you or, if is it okay to just call you and, and share with you. Yes, it's it may be a part of their job, But maybe they want to take it a little bit further. And I'm not talking about anything on a personal level, but I'm just saying maybe they just want to share with you a little bit more about your child. Have you put up any roadblocks or any fences or anything that makes our educators feel like it's not safe to cross that bridge? And so when we think about the O in Let's Stop and Have a Conversation, we want to make sure that our educators know, I want to meet you halfway. Because guess what? At the end of the day, who is the most important person in the room? Is it me as the mom? You know, I'm pretty cool, I'm important. Is it my child's teacher? She's pretty important, he's pretty important. But guess who's the MVP? Guess who's the center of that conversation? Our children. And we don't want to create barriers that will interfere with that learning process, with that relationship building with our child and our teacher. And we do not want to cause any strain on the relationship that we can have with our child's teacher. And so we want them to know that it is safe to cross that bridge. But we also want them to know that, you know, you don't get parent involvement without parent engagement. But they need to know that you want to be engaged. Like you want to be engaged. You want to talk. And so it's a two-way street. And sometimes, and there isn't, one straight path or one easy way to do that. No, it's not. But I will say it is so helpful when we can build a relationship with with our children's educators, with the front office, with the coach, when we can build those relationships. Because like I said, who's the MVP? Who are we all doing this for? We're doing it for our children. And so we want healthy conversations. And we want to be the one to initiate that. Initiate healthy conversations. We don't always have to be sarcastic. We don't always have to throw shade. We don't always have to do that. And maybe this isn't the group that does that, or you don't do that. But you know how we can be about our children. So let's just be honest. You get an email and you looking at that email like, excuse me, sir, excuse me, ma'am. Or you don't get a reply as quick as you want to reply. So whoop, that wall automatically goes up because that teacher did not reply back in 48 hours like her policy said she would. Or you look and those grades haven't been posted. Now I know I have I have truly been guilty of that. I'm like, okay, when are y'all gonna post these grades? So we want to make sure that we do our part in ensuring that our educators know, you know what? I am here to support you. I'm here to support you. Because at the end of the day, the MVP, not me, the MVP, as special as our children's teachers are, and they are wonderful, the most important person in the room is that child. And so that's where our focus is. And that's why we want to make sure that our educators know that it's safe to cross that bridge, because we want to build healthy relationships with them. We absolutely want to build healthy relationships with our educators, and we want them to know it is safe to cross that bridge. Talk to me as the parent, and I'm going to talk to you. Okay? So that's the O in stop. So we talked about share. We talked about time, creating moments and opportunities, everyday living. The O, open the doors for our teachers, letting them know that it's safe to cross that bridge. And so now, this last one, I'm probably going to spend a little bit more time on because it is P, pause. Okay? The P in pause is important because when we think about communicating with our children, we talked about sharing, taking time to share. We talked about time, moments, opportunities, everyday living. You know, we talked about our educators because that is a part of the conversation. They are a part of the conversation with our children, right? And so now we're talking about pausing, stopping, not being so busy, because now we really do need to have these conversations. Because the conversations do change. If you think about what you and your baby talked about when they were in daycare, and now that they are in the third grade, is that conversation the same? It's not. If you think about what you and your third grader talked about, and what you now talk about when they are now in the sixth grade, is that conversation the same? It is not. Okay? So as our children matriculate, as they move, as they grow up, the conversations do change. But in order for us to recognize how these conversations are changing, we have to pause. We have to stop. We have to pause for a moment and notice the changes, whether it's the changes in their behavior, whether it's the changes in grade levels, because those conversations do change. And I'll tell you for myself, the conversations that I had with my daughter when she was a ninth grader at Douglas Anderson School of the Arts, and now that she's a freshman in college, the conversation has changed. It has truly changed. And I've had to grow. Like, I'm being stretched with these new conversations we're having now about safety, you know, because she's not in the city with me and her dad. And so the conversations that we had in ninth grade are very, very different than the conversations we're having now. Our son that is, in the military, when he was a senior at First Coast, and now that he is serving, in the United States military, those conversations are different. And so we have to pause. I often, and I really do believe this, that we have to stop. Like, we have to stop. And sometimes we have to stop, take a step back, so that we can take a look, kind of scan our children, scan them at the dinner table, scan them when we're picking them up and when they're walking to the car. Do you see anything? Do you notice anything? Do you notice, on Monday, they were just excited when they run into the car. But then by Wednesday, they're upset. They're angry. Something's bothering them. What happened between Monday and Wednesday? What happened at the beginning of the school year? And now, what has changed? And so we have to always take those moments to pause, because this is what I've learned, you know, as a parent. I do need to listen. Like, I need to stop and pause and listen. And sometimes it's not what's being said, it's what our children don't say. A lot of times it's what they don't say. If you have teenagers, I have had two of them in the house, three of them in the house at the same time. One is extremely talkative, was extremely talkative. One wouldn't say a word. So it was often what he didn't say that I had to pause and listen. The silence. Yep. And so that's why I say that P and pause is really important, because you want to notice changes. Um, you want to notice things that maybe that's just a little different, with our children. And as they begin to grow and develop in different areas of their life, those conversations do change. They really do change. Some of the things that you talk about in elementary school, you know, you're not going to talk about in middle school. Those are some very different conversations, right? And even Our babies that are in daycare, preparing for kindergarten. It's a different conversation. And so that's why we have to pause and notice, pause and take notice of changes in their behavior, changes in their attitude, changes in maybe in just how they view life. Maybe some of the things that they're saying, how they're viewing the world around them. Pause and listen to that. Pause and listen to those conversations. Sometimes when they're just sitting, in the car and they're chatting on the phone, and most of the time our children aren't chatting on the phone. Most of the time they're like this. And I can tell you that doesn't change when they go off to college. They still do this, you know. But I think it's so important for us to stop and take notice, not necessarily to the world around us, but the world around them. Because there really, really are some changes that if we stop and we pause, that we're going to notice. Like we're going to seriously notice. Okay? So I want to share something else with you. Listen to this. The relationships that we are building with our children will impact and influence how they communicate with us and others in the following areas. Okay, I'm going to say that again. The relationship we are building with our children will impact and influence how they communicate with us and others, okay, in the following areas. So, the relationships that we are building with our children, okay, will impact how they communicate spiritually, how they communicate physically, emotionally, cognitively, and from a safety standpoint. How so? How so? So you think about, you know, I want you to go back. Remember at the beginning when we were talking about how family influence you as a child and the impact that family has on us, on how we communicate even today? If you were to actually sit for a moment and think about as a child, some of the things that you heard or something that was said to you and how that impacted you. I can remember, oh my gosh, I can remember having a birthday party and someone and family, not just someone, but family coming to my birthday party. And I still remember that. At 43, I still remember family coming to my birthday party. And everybody was so happy and oh my gosh. And how that made me feel like I almost can literally see it. That moment, that memory, the impact that it left on me, right? And so oftentimes, many of the things that we deal with, or I should say, when we're dealing with our children, we're talking to our children, we're sharing with our children, we're building, right? Like we're building. We're making memories. We're leaving a thumbprint, right? Yeah. And it does impact, for example, spiritually. So maybe you grew up in the church, or maybe you didn't. And think about as a child, how did that impact you? Growing up in a spiritual environment or not growing up in a spiritual environment. And now that you're an adult, how did that impact? Did it influence? Did it push you to want to pursue spirituality? Maybe, maybe not. And then think about our other one, physically. How our relationships, the relationships that we're building, how it impacts us physically. How does it impact us physically? Like, do you find yourself wanting to be around others all the time? I grew up in a home that was the party house. My mom For some reason, she always had something on the grill. There was always music going, and people were always dancing. Our house was it was the happening. I don't even think happening is I don't think we say that anymore. But it was the spot. My mother was always, and you know what's interesting about that is that my grandmother was the exact same way. My grandmother would feed, oh my God, she would feed people, give away clothes. And then my mom, because she was impacted by that relationship, my grandmother, same thing. My mother would cook for people, she would bake biscuits and pies and do all these wonderful things. And guess what ended up happening? I inherited that same gene. And so, from a physical standpoint, I have found myself repeating the same behaviors because the way I was impacted by seeing my mother and my grandmother serve people in our neighborhood, right on 36 and Moncrief here in Jacksonville. And so they served their community. They fed people. They went to hospitals and nursing homes and so I find myself doing some of those same things because of the impact. Now, we said physically, we said spiritually, we said physically. Now, the other one, emotionally. How have you been impacted emotionally? Think about your own children as you're building relationships. And we are. I think sometimes we don't think about that, like we're building a relationship with our children, but we are. We're actually building a relationship with them. We're building a bond. We're building that togetherness. We're building that closeness. And how are our children impacted emotionally by the relationship that we're building with them? Through our communication, through the way we communicate with them. Think about that. Do you think that if you have a teenage daughter, if every time you tell her something, this is just an example. Every time she tells you something, you pick up the phone and you share it with a friend, do you think she's going to keep sharing with you things that go on in school or something that's just bothering her? Or maybe even your son. Do you think, you know, when we communicate with our children or when our children communicate with us, if we always feel the need to be critical or be right, and sometimes they just want to be heard. Sometimes they just want you to hear what they're saying. But if we're always so quick to respond to what they're saying instead of listening to what they're saying, just taking a moment, hey, and just letting them get it out. How does that impact them emotionally? How does it impact our children emotionally when they can sit and communicate with us and they can share? We have, and we used to have this, and I'll be honest. The transition into empty nesting, I really wish there was another word for that. But when my children were younger, and even when as each one of them left, we used to do this exercise or this activity called high low. And I loved, oh my gosh, I really did. I loved it so much. And we got the idea from a movie that my husband and I watched. And we would sit at the table in the evening when we could actually sit at the table, because that wasn't always the case. We didn't have that kind of life where we could just sit at the table all the time. But when we could, and sometimes Saturdays, at breakfast, we would do high low. And it was really special when we could do it during the week because we got to hear about our children's day. But the thing about it, everybody got to share at the table, right? Talk about hashtag talk to me. So as we're sitting there and we're eating, we would go around the table and everyone had to tell their high and their low for the day. Now, this was very important to us because You could not tell someone what their high should or should not be, or their low should or should not be, and you had to listen. No matter how low that low was, if it was something that they did, something that they said, or something that impacted them, you could not say, oh, you can't feel that way, or that's wrong. You had to sit there and listen. And that left such an impact on the children because they knew when we got to that table, there's no judgment here. Whatever you need to say, your high is your high and your low is your low. And so when I talk about from an emotional standpoint, how relationship building and how we communicate with our children impacts them emotionally, creating space and creating opportunities for our children to do just that. Maybe they need to talk about their highs and their lows without us, getting in their skin, or without us being so quick to correct. Maybe they just need to share it. And so that's why the high low for us was so special. Now, sometimes I would be clutching my pearls, honey. I'm like, oh, okay, did he just say what I think he said? And I tried not to make any expressions because things came out at that table when we talked about the highs and the lows of the day. But it was an opportunity for them to get it out. And that's why I appreciate it. And even, let me tell you something else. It was an opportunity for them to see that their parents are human beings, that we go through stuff too, that we don't just get up and go to work and everything and the birds are chirping. No, 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 no. Sometimes it's rough out there in those adult streets. And so I appreciated the high-low activity at dinner time and when we could do it because it really, really allowed us to connect with our children and it helped us build trust. Because at that table, the high and the low, daddy couldn't say, oh, well, no, no, you suck it up. You mean to tell me you got upset about that? Nope. It was an opportunity for them to share because that's what we want. We want them to share. Now that may look very different. Yours may be them climbing in the bed in the evening before they go to bed at night, you know. But we want to create a space. We want to give them a space, a space where they want to share. And that's why I appreciated high low so much. Now, one thing that I enjoy about the hashtag talk to me is that as a parent, and now say this, it makes me check myself. Communicating with your children will cause you to check yourself and would also cause you to check your motives. Why are you asking that? Are you asking that because you're because you want your child to be in trouble? You're trying to catch them in a lie? It caused me to check my motives. Am I really being a caring parent? Am I really being understanding? Or do I just want to exert my authority? And that's just me. I'm talking about Tiffany. I'm talking about Tiffany. So oftentimes when I thought about hashtag talk to me, and even now still, you know, I kind of in my mind, why am I asking that? What am I trying to say? What am I getting at? What am I looking for? What am I fishing for? Now, sometimes we're asking questions because we truly do want to know how our children are doing. And yes, that is a good thing. That is a good thing. We want to open the door. We want to build relationships with our children. They are our children. And so my husband and I have often had these conversations, how can you go on a job every day You've heard people talk about their work husband or their work wife, or that's my work daughter or my work son. And you have these amazing, you just can't wait to get to work the next day so y'all can go to lunch with your coworkers and y'all can laugh about this, that, and the other. What if we had that same, what if we had that same attitude when it came to our children? Now, I'll be the first to tell you that's not easy. It's not. I raised a teenage daughter. Honey, honey, honey. So I know. But what I'm saying is the same investments that we make into relationships, the same deposits that we make into communicating, into relationship building through communication with people that do not live with us, we want to make those same deposits and investments in those little ones, even if they're 6 feet tall, like my sons are. They're so much taller than me now. But we want to make those same investments emotionally into their safety, spirituality, wherever you find yourself with your child. We want to make those same investments. That's my point. We don't want to, you can laugh and joke with your coworkers, and then you come home and it's like you go in your room and shut the door, or you go in your office and I can't talk right now. I'm busy. But you were available all day. You probably didn't want to be available, but you were available for lunch. You were available for that joke. Let's show our children. Let's show them the same thing, right? It's okay. It's okay. It is okay. Not easy, but it's okay. And so when I think about, I'll say this, when I think about how I treat others, I often think about in the conversations that I have with other people and how engaging I am sometimes with people. Am I the same way with my children? Am I? Tiffany, are you? Do you go the extra mile to pull your children into the conversation? You know how we like to stop by our coworkers' desk, how you doing? And chit chat about nothing, everything, and something. Do we stop by our child's bedroom and do the same thing? Do we do that? Do we share? Do we stop? Do we look for time, moments in everyday living to talk to them? Because I want to make sure that we understand what this whole hashtag talk to me is about. And it's really, honestly, STOP, stop. Let's stop and have a conversation, right? So we want to stop. And we stop all the time. Think about it. You do it every day. I do it every day. I do it every single day. I share. I take time to share. There are moments, opportunities in everyday living where I communicate. Now, there aren't any teachers in my life right now because, the children, 2 in the military and 1 is a freshman in college. But I have to create opportunity. I have to open the door and let people know that it's safe to cross that bridge with me. I'm still a mom. That didn't change. And then pause. So when we think about that, when we think about let's stop and have a conversation, stop. And we take that and just literally, if it was in our hand and it was something tangible we had in our hand and we presented it, and our child was on the other side of the hand and we were giving it to our child, like literally, like as you see me on camera. Here. Am I sharing with you? Am I taking time to share with you? Am I looking for moments in everyday living and opportunities where I can share, where I can build this relationship with you, with my son, with my daughter, and then with their educators, the people who are impacting them just as much as I am? Am I letting my child's teacher know that it is safe to cross that bridge? You can talk to me, you can call me. Am I being sarcastic? Am I throwing shade? Or am I being a parent that's building that relationship with that educator? Am I doing that? And then that P, it's in my hand. It's here. Here you go. Am I pausing? Am I pausing to take notice of the transitions in my child? Because those are moments for conversations, for relationship building. Am I doing that? And if I'm not, it's not like it's too late. There's so much that I have had to apply and reapply and just apologize. And I'm big on that. Like I'm big on, I'm not one of those people, like I've heard people say, you don't have to apologize. You don't apologize to your children. Psh. Tiffany and James, we apologize to our children. Because sometimes we're just wrong. We're just wrong. And so we need to apologize, and we do. And we've had to apologize several times. Even when they were smaller, we've had to apologize. And that's even a part of the pause. Admitting when you're wrong. And not behind your children's back. I've had to do that to them. I was wrong. I thought, I thought. Well, that's what I was trying to tell you, Mom, but you just wouldn't listen. I apologize. I was wrong. And so the whole hashtag talk to me is it's just an opportunity for us build relationships with our children, because we do need to build relationships with our children. It opens that door for trust. It does. They need us. They do. They need us on different levels and different stages as they begin to grow and develop in different areas of their life. They need us in different ways. Your baby that's in daycare may feel like they don't need you when they get to kindergarten and first grade, but they do. She's a big girl now. He's a big boy now. I need you to hold my hand, Mommy. I don't need you to hold my hand, Daddy. But I need that hug. When I come out that classroom, or when I come and I'm standing, waiting in the car line, I need to know, is that my mommy? That opportunity, that moment, that's a moment. When you're picking up your babies from school, those are moments. Moments that they cherish. After being gone all day away from you, and to see you, when they hop in that car, oh my gosh. You ever looked at your child's face when you're in the car line? Now, don't look at my face in the car line. Mm-mm. I just did not. I never liked any car line. I just did not like it. But you ever looked at your child's face when you pick them up, and how excited? Oh my gosh, they run into the car, or no, they're not running. Probably not running. They get in there, get in the back seat. They're so happy to see you. That smile, that laugh. Oh my gosh, I remember those moments. I also remember the moments picking them up and them not saying anything, just putting their headphones or whatever in their ear and not saying a word. And I have to, hey, hello. And I've actually said this, don't get in my car and don't speak. You want to walk? You want to walk on? You better get in this car and say hello. But yes, and even that. Oh, okay, mom. I'm sorry, mama. Hey, what's up, mama? And it goes back in the ear, you know. And we have what, about 4 minutes left. And so again, hashtag talk to me. Nothing, relax. Nothing where you gotta feel like, oh my gosh, I need to check off the boxes. Did I say hello to my child? Check. Did I hug my child? Check. Because sometimes, like I said, you don't have a whole lot of time. And we don't, because we keep adding stuff to our plates. Right? We do. We keep adding stuff to our plates. We make ourselves busy. And sometimes it is. We are. It's just a lot going on. You know, they have rehearsals, they have practices. We still got to be mommy, we still got to be wife, we got to go to the grocery store, we got to shop for Thanksgiving, which is next week. November is family engagement month. We got to make sure we go do all the free stuff. We got to do that. But we want to build healthy relationships with our children. You know why? Because just like my grandmother set the bar for serving, I want to make sure that I pass that baton on to my daughter to serve others. That she understands that the things that I've done in building our relationship are to help us communicate and to help her emotionally and help her spiritually. Because I was building, my grandmother was building something, my mom was building something. And so it's so important, that when we think about our children and we're having these conversations, we want to do things, we want to say things that build those relationships, that enhance those relationships, that give them memories. My birthday party memory. I remember being like 5 years old, and I still remember the birthday party. We were living here in Jacksonville in the Blodgett homes, and I remember my birthday party. I remember the music, and I remember everyone coming over. I remember that. Because remember what I told you, my mom, her house was the happening place, you know? And she built that, she built that with us. A love for people. And so I watched her how she communicated with people. And guess what? It's somehow, some kind of way impacted my life. So I want to thank you guys so much. I hope I said something that helped you, gave you something to think about. I hope that this was a great use of your time. There's nothing worse than wasting a parent's time, right? So I hope that I managed your time well. I hope that this was engaging. I hope it was fun. I hope I made you smile. I hope I gave you something to think about. And I hope that you'll go back and you'll find a way to engage and build healthy relationships through your version of hashtag talk to me. Thank you guys so much. Again, I am Tiffany Clark, and this is hashtag talk to me. I appreciate you and I thank you, and go and enjoy Family Engagement Month. We have a few days left. All right, you guys, have a wonderful, wonderful evening.